Hey, Season 2, Episode 2, The Matt Report. Let's just get right into the show. All right, so what is going on? If this is your first time tuning in to the Matt Report, we're in Season 2. Oddly enough, it started with Season 0, as I like to call it, where I was interviewing WordPress entrepreneurs. About 100 or so of those episodes. You can always check that stuff out over on mattreport.com, or if you're subscribing in iTunes, certainly go ahead and check out the back channel there, or the archive of all of those episodes. Some good stuff. Some of my favorites are with Pippin Williamson, talking about how he started his business, Pippin's Plugins. Jose Cavalier started the school, SKOOL. It's now called the Core OS. Awesome episodes there. And there's a whole boatload of others. So go back and check those out. If you want to stay subscribed, it's mattreport.com/subscribe. If you wanted to shoot me an email, it's mattreportblog@gmail.com. If you have any questions about running a WordPress business, I can certainly point you in the right direction. So Season 1, as it's known, was all about web design. So if that was about 6 or 7 episodes, you can go back and check that out as well. We were talking everything from start to finish about a web project, starting from setting the budget, finding a team, really starting to explore a project, and really do the discovery process. You can also check that out. But this is Season 2, Episode 2, as it were. And we're exploring the process of me launching a new plugin that I like to say is taking up 15% of my energy, right? So if you're like me, you run an agency and you're trying to get, or a consultancy practice, and you're trying to get into the product space. It could be a WordPress plugin, a theme business, maybe a digital product, or maybe even a SaaS business. I'd love to kind of know what you're working on. If that's you, go ahead and email me. Set up a little chat there, or just go to mattreport.com/contact. But anyway, so I'm launching this new plugin. It's called Julep. It's a way for you to add text to your WordPress images, so featured images or inline content images. Instead of using your Photoshop or your Pixelmator or Canva.com, you can do this right in your WordPress website. Just kind of streamlines that whole process. You're not sort of bogged down with opening multiple programs, uploading here, uploading over there, that kind of thing. Really just trying to test the waters with this, and it's an open experiment. My short-term goal, if you tuned into the last episode, Season 2, Episode 1, of course I announced Julep, sort of got it out there. It's getjulep.com, Julep, getjulep.com. And my goal was to get 50 people on to an email list so that I could, as soon as the product was ready for beta, I could email folks on that list, and you could get early access to a beta that I send out. When I announced the plugin on Carrie Dill's podcast, within that hour I had 15 folks sign up to the email list that were listening, and that was cool, right? Hey, it's 15 is better than 0. This isn't earth-shattering stuff. But while I have announced it, I have blogged about it, let me go ahead and log in to MailChimp right now and see what the list is sitting at. So just bear with me as I log into MailChimp. I am using MailChimp to collect my initial subscriber list. I'm a big fan of Drip. I don't get paid to say this, but I'm a big fan of Drip, getdrip.com. It's Rob Walling's product. I use that for Slocum Themes, Conductor plugin. I will be using it for Julep, but let me just go ahead and check out this Julep list here. 68 subscribers, right? So what is that? Quadruple the amount of people. So I had, or over quadruple. So hey, look, I can write a blog post how I quadrupled my list. How I quadrupled my startup product list. Maybe I'll post that lesson over on mattreport.com. But 68 subscribers right now, and that's pretty cool. I like to see that. So these folks are certainly interested to know when the beta launches. So a couple things on that. I've sort of run into a snag with my developer. We've got this particular bug in the product right now. So it's not ready for prime time. I'm giving it another week, I hope, until I can get into beta or release it out into beta, where I can't drag the text across the image, right? So you go into your WordPress media library, you click on an image you want to add text to, you click add text, and a little text dialog box lays over on top of your image. But right now, for whatever reason, it's not dragging across the image. It stops halfway through. I think with the last conversation that I had, they finally figured it out, so we will see. And that's the biggest roadblock right now. I'll tell you, I'll be honest, it's not the prettiest interface yet. And you know what? I'm just going to say to heck with it. To heck with beautifying it right now. I really want to get it out there in the hands of others so that you can test it out. So if you want to be that person, if you want to subscribe to the early beta list, go to getjulep.com, and on the homepage you'll see a sign up. Just drop your email in there, and you'll be one of the first to know when I release in beta. So yeah, pretty cool. Today on the program, I have Troy Dean. Many folks of you know him, think of him as my competition. In fact, he isn't. He's just a good friend. We talk about similar stuff. I think we both come from different perspectives. We both come and deliver different context to our WordPress businesses. But he's on the show today, and we're going to talk about the fear, right? We're going to talk about the fear of launching a product. If you are somebody who's launching a product and you're afraid, just a touch. This is a great episode for you, because even Troy, who's launching multiple digital products, he's still afraid of things that go on with competition, with changing his business, and we'll talk about sort of the fears that I had. In fact, one of the things, if you're launching your first product, you really have to have a thick skin. And I had this discussion with somebody else the other day. Look, you just can't let this stuff get to you. You have to build up a tolerance to this and just know that you need to forge on, right? So let me just get my preacher hat on for a moment. You just have to understand that, look, people aren't going to be happy with whatever it is that you're doing. And you just have to ignore that. You have to avoid those conversations. Don't let it get you down. You forge on. People complain about price. No matter what price you set, $19, $1,900. There's going to be somebody who complains within there. That is not your customer. Ignore them. In fact, when I launched Julep, I had a whole bunch of people say, I just don't really get the name. I don't like the name Julep. It should be like WordPress image on featured WordPress text on featured image plugin. Like, no. Like, I don't want that. Like, I just want something more fun, things I can do with marketing, but I didn't let that stop me. Even some of the ideas, the founder of Managed WP, when I posted, he says, well, this isn't very earth-shattering. Well, I never said it was, right? But I certainly don't let that get me down, and don't let that get you down if these types of things are coming up along your journey. So keep your head down from those things. Ignore that stuff, and just know that, look, this is yours. This is yours. This is yours. This is your baby. This is your product. You're going to do it your way. And hopefully that resonates with some folks on the web, and they gain trust in you. And you just deliver on your word, great customer service, get a good product out there, and I think you'll win. And that's really what I'm doing with a lot of the stuff that goes on here at the Matt Report with Slocum Studio, with Conductor, Slocum Themes, and now Julep. So anyway, you want to join that list, it's getjulep.com. We're going to dive right into our conversation with Troy Dean. We're going to talk about the fears. We're going to talk about some new stuff that he has going on, and then he's going to give us some practical advice, and we're going to chat a little bit about growing the email list. And again, I went from 15 with a goal of 50, and I've hit 68 within about a week and a half, so I'm kind of happy with that. All right, let's get into the program. Alrighty, I'm here with Troy Dean of WP Elevation. Troy, thanks for taking the time out of your day to sort of chat with us.
Oh, man, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, so you are a repeat guest in the world-renowned WordPress podcaster. If folks don't know who you are, where can they find you on the web right now?
Twitter at Troy Dean and troydean.com.au. I've kind of started blogging again, which is fun.
Yes, you have.
And WPElevation.com is kind of the mothership.
That's awesome. So one of the things that, as everybody knows, we're in season 2 of the Matt Report. This is season 2, episode 2, in fact. And the last episode, I announced Julep, and I started talking about sort of some of the things I wanted to do. Folks, if this is your first time listening and you want to learn what Julep is all about, go on back to the previous episode. And you can learn about the different things that I'm doing with this, right? It's a plugin that's taking, and Troy, you know this better than anybody. You've got your creative services, your client services, and you got your product and service and consulting side. So many arms to this to this organization. Julep for me is taking like 15% of my time. With that, I have to go at these little micro launches, these little micro phases where I build on the product, announce these new iterations, right? So basically what I'm getting at is they're very minimal. It's the very MVP that everybody talks about. So it's stuff that's not even like finished yet, right? There's not even like I haven't even shown the icons for Julep yet because they're so embarrassingly ugly, right? Because they're like placeholders, right? And I don't even want to show people that stuff yet because it's literally like little text links, and it's just god awful. So you've got something coming up that you're announcing. First, tell the folks what it is, and when you first thought of the idea, what were the fear factors involved with that, or what is the fear factors involved in general for you, and how do you overcome that?
The thing that keeps me awake at night is what questions have they currently got that we're not answering? That's the thing that I'm afraid of, is not being able to answer all of their questions, and that's the thing that really keeps me. Like what if someone joins the program and then goes, oh, but there's all this stuff that I want answers to that you don't answer. And so that's what I'm constantly just trying to fuel up on this and, ask questions and talk to people. And because as much as it pains me to admit this publicly, I actually don't have all the answers. Right.
It's so true. And the funny thing is you've been doing this for a while, right? You've been doing the consulting to other consultants for a while. You've been doing digital products for a while, and digital training products. And even you are having these doubts, right? The self-doubt, like I don't have all the answers. You're openly admitting you don't have all the answers. And I guess the point that I really want to get across to listeners is that's the thing. Like even us, quote unquote, professionals that have been doing it for a while now, like it's still just shooting in the dark sometimes. We don't know if it's going to work, right? You don't even know if your new business model is going to work, right? I mean,
that's right.
That's a fear. That's a fear that you might have too. Is, hey, you've had this thing where anybody can come by while you're, the passive income, right? Where you're sleeping at night and somebody's coming and buying it, but now doors are shut, right? So if you don't sell out, do you shut those doors? Do you only take a few people in and keep it going? It's going to be, it's good on you to make that pivot, which I think is smart. We always have to be agile and make those transitions. But there's some real, fears in there. I know it'd be some fear in there for me as well.
Yeah. So, I think one of the things that, just to be clear, WP Elevation is still an ongoing membership that basically what we're doing is saying the way that you get into it now is by going through the course. And the reason that we're doing that is that engagement is the biggest thing that really, keeps me awake is, and let me just debunk this myth for a second. Engagement and churn for me comes down to this, right? If you've got a product that you actually believe helps your customers, then you owe it to yourself and your customers to make that product as easy to use and as beneficial for your customers. Because if your customers stop using the product, they stop getting the benefits from it. And if they stop using it, chances are it's a fault with the product.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
It's not their fault. We just have to compete for attention. So my job is to make the product as engaging and as sticky as possible, because I know that and our customers will tell us from the feedback that we get that if you go through the blueprint we teach, you will get results, and it does work. Where it doesn't work is if you get halfway through it and abort mission. So now we're saying, right, to get in the program, you have to go through the course and you have to complete it from start to finish, because then we know you'll actually get the benefits from it, rather than just getting halfway through and then getting distracted by another shiny widget.
Right. So that brings up another fear component that I know I go through. sometimes. Do you have any fear involved, or is there any fear involved with you thinking about competitors, other people teaching stuff, like maybe like lynda.com, right? Or something like that. Like, do you get those fears when you're first designing new courses or new training material? Like you're like, oh shit, somebody else is already teaching this, you know?
So it's a great question, man. And I was just going to talk about this, right? I mean, this is, I could riff about this for weeks. Yep. Because the thing is, here's the thing. Information is useless in and of itself, right? No, I don't know anyone who woke up in the middle of the night and went, oh my God, I just need to get on the internet and get more information. Right? That we are overwhelmed with information. What people actually want is insights and advice from people they trust. And that's the key distinction for me. There is a whole part of the WordPress community that I do what I do and you do what you do. And there are a certain percentage of people that just for whatever reason will not trust where I'm coming from and will not trust where you're coming from.
Right.
And there is a whole percentage of people that will just resonate with me more than they resonate with you and vice versa, right? So my job is to basically build as much trust as I possibly can with my audience. I'm not interested in building trust with your audience, right? Because they trust you. Now, you and I could effectively be teaching the same thing,
right?
But some people are just going to want to get that information from you, and some are just going to want to get it from me,
right?
That's just, it's like you drive a Mazda, I drive a Honda. They essentially get us from A to B. Right. I just trust the brand more than the other one, right?
Yeah.
So my fear is not that someone else might be teaching this information. Because there will be someone else teaching this information. There's no doubt about it. There will be someone else teaching this kind of information. It just might not be in the one place. It might be scattered all over the place. But my fear actually is that people won't believe that I'm authentic. Right. That's the biggest fear that I have. Because, the thing is, if I'm as authentic as I possibly can be when I'm on podcast and when I'm on videos and when I'm talking to the camera and when I'm blogging, if I'm genuinely authentic and people don't believe it, then there's really nothing I can do about that.
Right.
But that is the fear. It's like, what if people think I'm full of it?
Right.
Yeah,
no, it makes total sense. One of the things that you mentioned, is of course the trust that we have to instill with our audience. I use the same. So I talked about this with Carrie Dills the other day when I was on her show and I actually announced Julep, and she said the same thing like I was saying to you. We wear many hats. There's a service business, there's a product business, there's a consulting business, right? There's all these different things, and don't you ever get sort of tired? Or how do you control this? How do you maintain the balance of all these different brands that you have? And to me, I really think it's starting to come full circle where if we're not sort of if we don't have so many irons in the fire, that people might not trust us, kind of thing, right? So you and I both have podcasts. You and I are very similar in the sense that we both have podcasts, we both have products, and we both do client work. We can use all of that to our advantage to outsell or outpromote somebody else, right? Or gain trust of a client walking through the door. An example would be, build me a WordPress website for my business. And you and I both say, okay, that's $10,000 and we'll build it for you. And they say, how do I know you can do this? Well, I've got a podcast, I've got products, I've got a portfolio already, I've got this audience that trusts me. Like, here's my resume of all the stuff that I do. And I say that because I think that, number one, fear is crippling, right? So people who don't launch these things, like, they get afraid of all the things you just talked about. Competition, am I the right guy or gal to do this? Will people trust me? I think it's very disabling for the person who's just starting out. And without using the cliche of just ship it, it's very important that you do get something out there, even if you are afraid to feel confident about it, and just know, just like you and I tell our clients, software is going to change, right? This website is going to change. We're going to go through iterations. Just because we made this website live doesn't mean it's going to stay like that for the next 5 years. We're going to iterate on this in order for it to evolve, which is very true, I think, in our own professional lives. So yeah, I mean, what do you think about that? What do you think about the person who's just stuck trying to get something out the door?
It's a really interesting question. I've been very fortunate recently to speak to some amazing people who are, I've found myself in some situations recently where I thought, wow, I'm really punching above my weight here. I was on an interview, not an interview. I was on a Skype call recently with one of our elevators, Christina Romero, and Seth Godin, who I managed to connect with one of our elevators to help her. And we published it as an episode of our podcast as kind of an experimental format that we're toying with. And, just spending some time talking with people of that caliber, it makes you kind of up your game and reassess and rethink what you're doing. And so here's the takeaway for me is, what if you produced something with absolutely no expectation that anyone else will engage with it or like it or comment on it or buy it or give you any kind of feedback whatsoever? What would that do in terms of your ability to be able to create something if there was and publish something, but there was no expectation that anyone was going to give you any feedback whatsoever? And that's how I'm approaching. Now, the reality is that's how I'm approaching what I'm doing in my business now. The reality is we all need money to eat and to pay the rent. But I believe that if you can get yourself into a mindset where you can imagine that you don't need anyone to buy this, you'll actually make a better product.
Yeah. I just said, right? It's so true.
It's so true. Yeah. And I think if you make a better product, people will buy it.
Yep.
Because people buy from people they trust, right?
Yep.
If you produce awesomeness, I'm a big fan of leading a tribe. I'm a big fan of, publishing your thoughts and putting yourself out there and leading a community, whether it's on a podcast or blogging or through videos or whatever it is. If you position yourself as a leader of a community or someone who is at least willing to facilitate the community coming together, you don't necessarily have to have all the answers or be the autocratic leader, but if you can at least facilitate the conversation. So think about the organizer of a word camp. Person who organises a word camp just facilitates the conversation, right? But it is awesome positioning for that person in the WordPress community. Right. They have instant kudos and instant credibility in the community because they've organised a word camp. So if you can organise and facilitate the conversation in your particular community, then people will, generally what happens is people will eventually buy whatever it is you put out, as long as what you put out is good quality. Right, and the great example of this, and I hate to use this because everyone does, and it's such a cliche, but look at Apple. Look at what happened to Apple when Steve Jobs came back.
Yep.
Right, it's the greatest example in our living time of how a great leader has come back to the sinking ship and exercised leadership and turned it around and completely resurrected that company. Seth Godin buys a book. I don't even care what it's called or what it's about. I buy it. And the minute it comes out, I was like, because whatever that guy says is going to be good, right?
Right.
So my sort of approach is, forget about trying to make money, which is a weird mindset to get yourself into, but forget about trying to make money. Build something awesome for your community and continue to just facilitate that conversation in your community, and chances are you'll knock one out of the park.
Yeah, and that's it's reassuring for you to say that right now, because again, the same thing, this whole journey of launching Julep and getting it out there. This is something that it maybe not be going against all the grains, but it's certainly not something where I'm doing like market research and surveys and user feedback and user testing. It's really like, hey, I get this little idea. I know it's a pain in the ass for me to, when I make a new, blog post, and if I want to put a quote in an image or in my featured image, I got to open up Photoshop, or I got to open up Canva.com. I got to move some files over here. I got to save it. I got to export it. I got to upload it. Why can't I just do this right in WordPress? And so I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to build this thing. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about that experience. If I fail, I fail. If I don't, hey, we'll see what happens to it, right? And I'm just being very open with that process. And it's one of those things where it's like, hey, if it works, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I am not gonna cry about it, but I will record all the episodes of me crying about it. I guess if it gets to a point where like, hey, I think I can make some money from this, and then it falls flat on its face. One of the things that my short-term goal for Julep was growing an email list over 50, just having 50 people that I could email that were really interested in a beta version of the product, right? So I've been documenting everything so far. I think when I talked about it on Carrie Dill's podcast, by the end of that podcast, which was last week, I think by the end of that hour, there were 15 people that signed up during that webinar or during her live podcast. So my goal was, hey, I just want to triple that or at least hit 50 people onto an email list so that I could send them a possible beta invite, right? Just to try it out. Whether it's a paid beta or not, I don't know what I'm going to do with that yet. But here we are, just over a week or just about a week. I've got 60 people on the email list. And basically all I did was announce it on Carrie Dill's podcast, write a blog post about it on my site, and launch, of course, the first episode of the new series talking about it. There's no demo for it. There's no feature list for it. It's really just me saying, hey, there's this thing called Julep. If you want to get a beta, sign up here. There's no real proven software yet. So, but I'm happy that I've sort of already beat my goal, right? I wanted 35, 40. I got 60 so far, and I'm sure it'll grow a little bit more. But what are your thoughts on growing an email list, or do you have any tips on growing an email list that you've seen work really well?
Yeah, I mean, we've grown a pretty good list over the last few years, and it's really the thing that's allowed us to build recurring revenue into our business and build the community that we've built, and has, put us in a position where we can, without, the risk of sounding arrogant, but we can pick and choose the client work that we do because we have this great community and we have these plugins and this great, business coaching program this leveraged program that we sell, and we have a recurring revenue in the business, and that's been all been down to the quality of the list that we've grown. And so it's funny, because I got off a coaching call this morning with our members, and the biggest problem that they're having at the moment is getting the site handed over to the client. And one of the issues that they're having is, that people just don't have a good eye for detail when it comes to like image cropping, which we spoke about before. So your plugin, the obvious thing for me, like the obvious step here would be to produce a really good quality field guide or a checklist to, what not to, what to do, what makes images good for the web. So, how to crop images for the web, how to make sure that your aspect ratio is not squashed, and produce a really beautiful field guide or checklist to give to WordPress consultants, so WordPress consultants can, or anyone that uses a WordPress website, so that they can then share that with their team and say, hey, if you're preparing any images for the website, here's the style guide that we need to use, right?
Yeah.
Those people are prime candidates to then be using the Julep plugin.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. You're absolutely right. That's definitely something that I plan on doing. I don't know when I'm going to actually. I don't know when I'm actually going to finish the beta version. In fact, I talked to a developer that I didn't even have. So the inside baseball is, and I wrote about this in my post, is I don't know if I talked about it on the last podcast, but I certainly wrote about it. Was it's not even a product that I'm building internally with my team that I work with every day. I ended up sourcing out to another developer for, I gave him the wireframes. He said, hey, I think I can do this for like $500 to get it to where you need it to be in these wireframes. Which is like I could do a whole other piece on doing wireframes because you get what you get. And I was like, oh, damn, like I forgot about the old save button. Where does that go in this whole workflow of things? But anyway, I got the beta back, and there was some bugs in it. So I don't know when I'm going to ship it, but I'm certainly going to do a few more promo pieces before growing that list. I'm not looking to grow the list of thousands of people right now, which I know is like optimal, or at least, as much as you can get really, but qualified, of course. From what I've seen in the past, like when we did Conductor, right? I think there was like 150 people on that email list when I launched Conductor. And when I made it available, it was a paid beta. And I did $4,000 in 1 hour, which was, 150 people. And I think 40 people bought it at $100 a pop. Right. So that was a pretty good conversion right there. I mean, that's like 40%, something like that. Less than that, like 30%. So yeah, I'm not looking to crush it just yet. But certainly a good piece of advice.
If the free thing that you're giving away solves a very specific problem, which is actually a problem, and it is, because I can tell you our members are crying out for something like this. If your free thing solves a very specific problem, which is congruent with the product that you're eventually going to have, then you'll build a quality list who will thank you for the free thing that you've given them. And then there's the obvious next step in that conversation is, well, hey, we've got this thing which is kind of Canva for your work, as like a WordPress plugin version of Canva. You know that image quality is important. You've shared this stuff with your team. Here's a plugin you can use so that your whole team can produce quality images for your website. And in fact, if you develop that style guide, I will totally promote that out to our list because they want this kind of information.
Yeah. So look, that's a perfect another strategy right there, right? Hook up with folks like you and I that have an audience that we can send out to and connect with them.
Yeah,
that's
partnerships,
awesome.
Man.
Do you have any technical tools that you use for email? I know what I've been getting into recently is Get Drip from Rob Walling. Do you have any technical stuff that you've been using for email?
Yeah, I use a whole bunch of things. I've used just about everything.
I know you were big into Infusionsoft, right?
Yeah, we use Infusionsoft, which has its pros and cons. But my own website, troydean.com.au, I'm running that on Active Campaign at the moment, which I really like. But there's two others that I really like at the moment. Agile CRM is not quite as powerful as Infusionsoft, but really, really good. Agile, it's much, much cheaper than Infusionsoft, and it's really, really powerful. It has some really powerful automation stuff built into it. So that's kind of cool. But I also Emma. Have you seen Emma? MyEmma.com?
I haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah, myemma.com is really, really nice.
Yeah.
So I'm experimenting with that at the moment as well. But you know what? It kind of doesn't matter. What really matters is that you get your offer right. What really matters is that you get your whatever you call it, your lead capture device, your lead magnet, your ethical bribe, whatever you want to call it, whatever the free gift is that you're giving away.
Ethical bribe.
In exchange, the carrot that you're dangling in exchange for someone's email address. That's the critical thing. And here's the thing: I see most people experimenting with all these different tools and not actually developing the offer. Develop the offer, and then worry about how you can. I mean, you can MailChimp just does this stuff really well as well. So
yeah.
You don't need to, the tool is kind of irrelevant as long as you've got a really compelling offer.
Yeah. I remember you mentioned Agile CRM in another interview that you did. I forgot who it was with. Maybe Jennifer Bourne when you interviewed her. I forget who I was listening to, but I did check that out, but I never really dove into it.
Yeah, it's come a long way. We've got some people here who work in our office who were Infusionsoft users. Then they grew up to HubSpot, which is like $800 a month or something crazy. Then they canned that because it was just way too expensive, and they've gone to use Agile CRM. I haven't used Agile CRM for about 12 months, and I was talking to them yesterday, and they said it's come a long way in the last 12 months, and they said it's just awesome. It's really, really good. Yeah. So it's definitely worth checking out again.
Let me get your opinion on one more thing, because I know this comes up a lot with new product people, especially in the WordPress world. Should I go free launch of a beta, or should I do a paid beta? And I'll just preface this with Conductor. Like I said, I sold those 40 copies at $97 each with no disclosure of like what they were getting. People just saw it and they were like, okay, I want it. Let me get in. All of those people now were grandfathered into a lifetime membership. They didn't know that was going to happen. But I did that as the product grew a little bit. But should I go paid, or should I just go straight free in the beginning? What are your thoughts?
I would go free, and I would build in some kind of infrastructure in the future to have paid extensions or paid add-ons.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, man. I don't know if you've seen recently, like, what's available on the internet for free, but it is
it's
insane,
ridiculous,
man. Like, what you can do on the internet for free is, I mean, have you seen Code Academy recently?
Yeah.
I mean, this is what we're up against, man.
I know.
I mean, you know, if I was building a new product, a new plugin from scratch, it would be, the core would be free, and extensions and upgrades and, I mean, Canva.com is a great example.
Yeah.
You know, I would definitely be going free and then paid extensions and paid add-ons. Otherwise, I just think it's too hard to get traction if you're asking people to pay up front.
Yeah.
And, you know, you might build a little bit of revenue and, you know, I actually think, see, here's the thing. The fear is actually not building something that nobody wants.
Yeah.
The fear is building something that 100 people buy.
Yeah.
Because then it's too big to shut down and not big enough to sustain you, and it just becomes a pain in the ass. It becomes a headache of a thing to support.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So my advice would be go free and just get as much traction as you can, and then build some paid add-ons and some paid extensions.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do, and I think that'll be my next challenge. The next time I record a show or write a blog post, that will be what I hopefully have decided by that point, as long as we've ironed out all those bugs. And it actually works exactly the way it's supposed to work, but there's just a few like element things that just aren't working. But anyway, man, this has been awesome.
Cool, man.
I appreciate the time. One more time, where can folks find you on the web?
At Troy Dean is my Twitter handle, troydean.com.au. I've started blogging again. And, of course, wpelevation.com is the mothership, or the video user manuals plugin at videousermanuals.com. That's kind of where I hang out.
Thanks for listening to the Matt Report. If you want to stay subscribed, it's mattreport.com/subscribe. I would love a 5-star review in iTunes, or any review, really. If you like the show, love the show, hate the show, just search for us in iTunes, Matt Report, and leave us a review. 5-star would be appreciated, though. And if you want to stay connected to the recent product launch that we have here, it's getjulep.com. And as always, this show is sponsored by my parent company, it's Slocum Studio. We do WordPress design and development for brands and universities such as Rutgers University, Brown University, Wheaton College, and more. You can check us out at slocumstudio.com. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions for me, it's mattreportblog@gmail.com.